Hey dudes, welcome to Splat from the Past, the only 80s themed horror and sci-fi show where things can get totally radical. Now today, I will be welcoming a stand-up comedy legend. A lot of people in San Francisco know who he is. His name is John Means, but he goes by Dr. Gonzo. And he's a Bay Area comedian going back to the golden age of Bay Area comedy. And he opened for many rock bands, including Huey Lewis and the News. He was in their video for If This Is It. And he did some amazing things, you know. He was in the San Francisco comedy competition a couple times. He placed fifth on the Big Laugh Off, the stand-up comedy competition on Showtime back in the early 80s. He was on Star Search, lots of stuff. And then he gave it all up to become a teacher. And I'm going to have him on the show to find out why. I think that's very interesting. He's a funny guy. If you go on YouTube, you can see him on Alex Bennett's comedy showcase back in the 80s. He's a pretty funny guy. Lots of sarcasm, and he plays a guitar on stage and sings songs and stuff. He was pretty good. He was pretty good. So yeah, here is my interview with Dr. Gonzo, aka John Means. Hey, John.
Hey, Tommy. How you doing?
I am great. How are you?
I'm doing fine, thanks.
Well, welcome to the show. It's such an honor. Thank you for taking the time today.
Well, no problem. I appreciate it, too.
Yeah.
We have a special format, or are we just going to shoot from the hip?
Yeah, I got a somewhat of a linear approach to interviewing and stuff, going all the way back in time.
Okay.
So did you like comedy at an early age?
Oh, yeah, man. Ed Sullivan Show and Smothers Brothers Show, you know, all the comics. Never thought about being a comic. I liked Bill Cosby, and I liked George Carlin, and, Shecky Green. I mean, just about anybody that was on TV that made me laugh, I enjoyed. But I was more enamored with the Beatles and, having a guitar and stuff like that. So.
Yeah, watch a lot of the Ed Sullivan Show and the Tonight Show.
Oh yeah, the Tonight Show was a big one. The Jack Benny program was probably one of my favorite shows, and I didn't realize till years later what an influence he had on me. Just the way he paused and the cast that surrounded him. I watched him on TV quite a bit. Red Skelton was another one that I watched quite a bit. Again, looking back, I never ever thought about being a comedian. I wanted to be a rock star, and the comedy just kind of happened. So they were all pretty much influential.
Mm-hmm. Who are the comedians that influenced you, though?
I would probably say Cosby's storytelling the most. He could take you into the chicken heart. Those were the records that I would save my money up for and go buy, were the Cosby albums. Those were the ones that I listened to over and over. The 200 Mile an Hour and Baby Boogie Wheels on the go-karts. And yeah, the Cosby was probably one of my top ones.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
I was going to ask. So the Beatles were obviously a favorite of yours, though. But which musicians influenced you the most?
Well, my folks had a lot of big band albums and things like that, and until the Beatles came along, I think I was about 8 when they hit. It was pretty depressing sitting through when Kennedy was assassinated. I sat there with my mom and watched, Jack Ruby get shot on TV, and, Thanksgiving was depressing, and Christmas was kind of a downer, because Looking Like magazine were doing all the Camelot things, talking about the Kennedy presidency, and when the Beatles hit in January, America needed a shot in the arm, and 2, we all needed a shot in the arm. My folks came in and said, "Hey, turn on the TV," and we turned on the TV, and the Ed Sullivan Show, and the kids screaming, and "Shut up, Renee! You don't behave, and not bringing out the Beatles." And then the Beatles came out, and Mom, I gotta have a guitar. Mom, I gotta have a guitar. Mom, I have to have a guitar. Mom, Well, and that side,
Yeah.
that's the one that had me bouncing off the walls. But finally, Mom took me to Sears and got me a $15 Swingerland guitar or something, and I got a little songbook and Bell Bay, the pictures of his fat little fingers on the chords, and it had a little tuning 45 record, and I had siblings, so I would just lock myself away in my room and play the guitar. That was my big influence. And then eventually they bought me an amplifier and a shitty electric guitar, and then I got a microphone. I'd make all kinds of noises in my room. Machine gun firing, and they must have thought I was completely insane in my room with the noises and the guitar and dropping needles on records, trying to learn songs. And my grades suffered greatly. I was a pretty good student till the guitar came along, and they'd punish me by taking it away. Or when I was in high school, my dad cut the strings off my guitar and cut my car keys in half because I wasn't home when I was supposed to be, or something.
Yeah.
So
As
he knew that was the thing that I loved the most, was my guitar.
Yeah, as it often does, you get bad grades once you get caught up in something you want to do.
Yeah, and then I got in, and of course from the Beatles, and then I got into the Stones, and then Dave Clark 5, all the British bands. Eventually, my sister bought the Led Zeppelin's first album, and the Doors, and the Woodstock album, and I think I was 14 when the Woodstock movie came out, somewhere around there, and I got into the movie theater somehow and watched it, with the boobies and the butts and the mud.
The hippies.
But the music was pretty phenomenal, especially Crosby, Stills and Nash. I think that was one that really hit me because the acoustic guitar was my all-time favorite. James Taylor was big, big influence. Who else was I'm trying to think. Even Johnny Cash. A lot of my friends, parents were into country music, and so I listened to a lot of George Jones and Patsy Cline and all that stuff. But I think rock and roll was my thing. Country was not my gear. So
yeah. And so after high school, did you attempt to be a rock star? I mean, did you have a band or any of that?
Well, when I was in high school, my friends had a band called Nirvana. Go figure. And they were doing covers and things. And I would sit in between. I felt bad that I wasn't asked to be part of the band because these were a lot of friends of mine that I jammed with and learned how to play guitar around. And but they were more in band in school, and they're more sheet music readers and things like that. And so they would let me do sit-ins during the breaks, during intermissions, when they'd go out and all the kids go out and smoke cigarettes and drink beer or whatever. I had a little handful of girls that would sit and listen to me play my James Taylor or Jim Croce songs or whatever, high school. And then I went to junior college and was around a couple of really talented people that just had a really good ear on the guitar, and so I picked up a lot of riffs from them. And then when I went to the university, I went to Drake University in 75 is when I transferred there. And between coffee house gigs and stuff, I've met some friends. We started, I had a roommate that started calling me Dr. Gonzo because he thought he was Hunter Thompson. And this is how the name all came around. The guy was sticking hatchets in the door, and he wouldn't sleep, and he was up all night, and he was taking 80 hours of English, and writing papers, and he was also an artist, and he was out of his mind. And he called me Gonzo, and it stuck because we were doing some intramural softball and things like that. But I started Dr. Gonzo's Bonzo band, and two of the guys in my band have gone on to become novelists, which I think is pretty interesting. One was a great harmonica player, and it was really cool to learn how to jam with a harmonica guy because I would know what key to play in, and depending on what kind of blues harp they had. And so we played, it was about 3 years. I stayed there for an extra year before I moved out to San Francisco. And then I played out at the Wharf, with my guitar case open when I first moved out in 78.
Yeah.
And, we were doing some John Prine stuff with the band, a lot of Prine songs just because they were fun and funny and easy to play. And we did a little bit of Jethro Tull, a little bit of, I can't remember all the stuff we played, but we wrote some original tunes. And But then when I started playing out at the Wharf, it was great. The story songs were the ones that people like. They like the, Wild Woodweed, Jim Stafford kind of stuff. And, because people would walk through the cannery or down. Are you in San Francisco, by the way?
I was for 33 years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you know when I say these different places, what I'm talking about.
Exactly.
Yeah, the cannery was the big thing. I started going down there, and you had to kind of get spots to get on the good stages and the good, the alcoves and things. Mm-hmm. And but I met a lot of cool people that way, and I thought, well, shit, these guys. And there were some great musicians out on the street. I thought, well, shit, if they can't get inside, how am I ever going to get inside and play anywhere?
Yeah.
And I stumbled into the old boarding house on Bush Street before it was turned into condos. And David Allen, I started realizing the history of the boarding house. I mean, Old and in the Way was recorded there, with Garcia and Jeff Wasserman and these guys and Pastor Clemens. And anyway, downstairs at the old boarding house, they would do open mic nights. And so I would open up for the comics, do an open mic, doing these little silly story songs. And that finally taught me into going on stage, and I kind of became a comic. So kind of weird.
Yeah.
But I knew how to play like the beginning of all these songs, and I'd get lazy and I wouldn't learn the whole thing or something. So when I started doing song parodies and things like that, I just little bits and pieces of songs. I go, boy, if I play that right and throw, switch it around a little bit, boom, I got a joke out of it. So that's kind of how I built an act.
Yeah. So you knew right away what your comedy voice was.
It kind of came pretty quick. I didn't, from the time I did my first open mic to the time I quit my day job in 1980, I think it was 6 months to do, but I was doing open mics like every night. There was a Holy City Zoo, the other cafe, the old boarding house, the open air theater, what was it called? It was down on Clement Street. Anyway, there were so many places to do open mics. You could get on stage like every night. Mm-hmm. So working day job, I was working at a restaurant on Bush and Powell. There's a pizza maker, throwing pizzas in a window right on the cable car line where tourists would stop and laugh because I was throwing them up in the air and I'd get them stuck on the ledge, and everybody thought that was funny. So I kind of had a little stage there while I was starting to do the comedy, and then the guy made me the day manager, which worked out great because I could, I didn't have to be at work till 10. I turned the ovens on. We opened at 11. I worked till 5, and then I could go out to the clubs and get good. And and I was taking the bus everywhere.
Yeah.
At the 30 stock, and I just bouncing all over the place. And then different friends would have cars, and we'd drive off to places. And when people started paying me money, to do comedy, I couldn't believe it. And $50 here or $100, you're just like freaking out going, "Fuck, this is great." Then at the beginning of 1980, I kind of got on the phone with my dad, and I said, there's all this work out here. If I could get to the gig, if I had wheels. And so I worked out a deal with my dad. He sent me money, and I paid off this car in like 2 years, and I was working. And he thought, now where's this money coming from, really? Because he's back here in Illinois. I'm out there, gigging all over the place. And but I quit my day job around May 1st of 1980 and never looked back. And it was pretty awesome. And I got in with Marty Ballin was doing remember Marty Ballin from Jefferson Airplane?
Yep.
He did a play he wrote it was a musical called Rock Justice. And he did it at the Stone, and it was about a guy that was on trial for not having a hit record, and and then he wrote songs to. Anyway, but I opened for that, so I kind of got a taste of hey man, I could besides the clubs, I could also open for bands because I'm cheap. I don't have all this equipment. I just kind of plug in, do my thing, and walk off, and so I started getting work. I worked with Lionel Hampton, which was weird. That was kind of a jazz crowd that snapped their fingers at my jokes. And, but I got a real taste of, this is cool. I get to meet musicians, and I'm living out my music fantasy at the same time of doing the comedy. So it was just really bizarre how it all kind of happened. So,
yeah. Did you start playing at the Holy City Zoo?
Yeah, that's where I started doing comedy. Bobby Slayton, I asked him about an open mic. This one I was still doing just the music before the comics at the boarding. I said, go to the Holy City Zoo and they got an open mic. So I went and I signed up, and then the show hadn't started yet, and I went across the street and started drinking with a rugby guy and got pretty fucked up. Came back over, and I was like fourth on the list, and they were like at number 2, and it was comedians. And I went, well, what's this? And they go, well, it's a comedy club. And I could have turned around and walked out. I said, like, I'll try it. I was drunk, and I signed up as Dr. Gonzo because I didn't know. I thought I was just going to play my guitar, whatever.
Yeah.
And I got up there, and it took me so long just to get my guitar out of the case. They were laughing at me already. So I started doing like the Jack Benny, just kind of turning a look and a take, and they'd laugh at that. They kept laughing. I'm like, I haven't even done anything,
Yeah.
And Tony DePaul asked me back on a Sunday night where you got to do like 20 minutes or something like that I suck. So you you kind of had the highs and the lows and the highs and the lows, but I kept working on it. I started writing Please Come to Oakland and Almost Heaven, Marin County, and ZZ Top parodies, and Sold My Wife, Lost My Car, Cocaine, stuff like that. Just started ripping, and next thing you know, the gigs started coming in, and I was perfect for bands. So I found other venues besides the comedy clubs. It kind of pissed off some of the other comics, but I was hustling, man. I was young, and I didn't want to be in the house.
Yeah. Who are some of the other comics that were there at that time?
Oh, Steve Pearl, who's one of my favorites.
Love Steve. He's the greatest. Yeah.
Oh, fuck yeah. I laughed so fucking much around Steve. We had a lot in common as far as growing up reading Mad Magazine and
the rock music and blues.
He was in New York where you could go see, the Allman Brothers and shit. And I was lucky if I got to get out of the house. We had friends had conversion bands, and we go to St. Louis to go see concerts in Black Oak, Arkansas, and shitty Midwest, REO Speedwagon bands.
Yeah.
He was seeing the really good guys, and I was seeing the kind of shit guys, but they were all hit bands.
Yeah. Was Doug Ferrari there?
No, yeah, Ferrari was there with the High Wire Radio Choir and Ray Hanna, and actually, all these guys. Who was good about that time? 1980 was Mike Pritchard, of course.
Yeah, Mike.
Jane Dornacher, Kevin Pollak,
Al Cleveland,
David Feldman, all these guys. I mean, it's kind of weird. There was kind of a Billy J. We were all kind of like one thing, and then there was like a second wave, and then a third wave, and just because suddenly everything became popular. And I was probably just behind like Giovanni, Bill Rafferty, Robin Williams was just ahead of me, as far as that was the buzz. Oh, Robin's, you guys, I'm working Mindy, and I didn't even have a TV then, so I wasn't really paying attention to what was going on TV, and then I realized that he stopped by the boarding house one time, and then the zoo. He was at the zoo like all the time. After Popeye came out, he just was like one of the regular guys that would show up all the time, and it was kind of weird because my first real headline gig was at the Holy City Zoo, and I was on stage and I was doing really well, and I was really excited, and then Robin walked in, and I'm sure the look on my face, just the blood probably ran down my face, like, "Wow, you fucker, why'd you walk in now?"
Yeah.
Which is my thing. And then he just jumped on stage with me. So I did song styles, and he started singing off. I would just change the styles, and he just went all over the place. And from then on, we were buddies,
Yeah.
And he took if you were a comic, you were in the fraternity, So it was a pretty cool time.
Yeah. Did you ever see Bill Irwin?
Yeah, Bill Irwin was cool too, but he wasn't around very much. I mean, as far as in the clubs. I saw him I think I saw him at the boarding house. A physical humor, fucking hysterical.
Yeah, he was a funny guy.
Everybody was really different from each other, and that's what I really liked about it. My niche was the rock and roll thing, and everybody else kind of stayed away from it. Ray Hanna did some of it. Billy J did a few song parody things. But I kind of grabbed the corner on that.
Yeah, it was a magical time for comedy. It was a huge melting pot of personalities. Everyone had their own style, and by the time
and they were coming from different places too. A lot of New York. I mean, Slayton was right there. I mean, Slayton was probably just a few weeks ahead of me. I mean, I like to say we're kind of in the same class, but he was his own thing. Bob Sarlott, Carrie Snow.
Carrie, I love her.
Love Carrie. And I know Will Durst. Durst came out.
Yeah,
came out and then left. He was out for just a short time, and we met, and then he left, and then he came back, and then and his act wasn't really all politics at the beginning. He went all over the place too. So, but those are probably some of my still best friends to this day are Durst, and I stay in touch with Pearl, and I saw Billy J, who retired off to Canada, but he came through here not too long ago to visit with me. So it's just you get these flashbacks of like, Jesus Christ, we weren't thinking, we were just doing,
Yeah.
We were doing it. Steve Kravitz was there.
Steve Kravitz, yeah.
There were other guys that wrote. I'm trying, I don't know, I'd have to really pick my brain. I'd have to go through my Facebook friend list.
Jeremy Kramer?
No, Kramer. Yeah, fucking Kramer. Kramer was one of my favorite. Monty Hoffman. I mean, the list goes on. You mentioned Monty around Pearl. He'll just fucking explode and go, oh, that God,
yeah.
Whatever, I mean, he did some stupid shit, but.
I heard.
Yeah. Oh, have you interviewed Steve?
Steve's been on twice, but we didn't talk about Hoffman, but I know a female comedian who got harassed by him one time.
Oh, yeah. Well, I remember him calling Ellen DeGeneres a dyke, years before anybody knew she was gay.
Oh, yeah.
Just one of those things. Yeah, and Ellen came out, I don't know, 81 or 2, somewhere in there. She fit in there. And then, and then there was Cobb's. I forgot about Cobb's. It's Tom Sawyer's Club. It's one of my all-time favorite places down on Chestnut Street before they moved to the Cannery. And then, there were just so many things.
Yeah, by the time...
all the memories are coming back.
Yeah, by the time I got into San Francisco stand-up in 2006, the camaraderie was gone. It still is. There's this shitty, seedy stuff going on behind the scenes and everything, and like there's no support. Everyone's in it for themselves. I mean, it's terrible now. But you guys were part of a golden era of comedy.
Well, we didn't win. There was no. I mean, I don't think any of us got into it for money. I mean, we were all just doing it for fun.
Right.
And then it just kind of happened, I mean, we didn't know that the scene was going to explode, but with the sitcoms and all the, the TV stuff, and it used to be, you just kind of worked on it for a while, then you moved to LA and you tried to get on Carson, and then there you go, but we didn't know, we didn't know better, and then Alex Bennett came in and the promotion and all the stuff, and he could have been he was a real dick at times too, but it was the introduction to show business. Show business can be a bunch of assholes.
Oh yeah.
It showed you the dark side, but it also showed you the fun side of it. I never got into comedy to get on television or in the movies and stuff like that. I just really enjoyed playing live, and I really liked opening for bands, and I just kept focusing on that. While a lot of my friends went on to Carson and got on, Pritchard got on Cheers, as a gay guy, and then Bill Rafferty was on Real People, and and then Pollock, of course, he got
huge.
Kevin Pollock, he'll tell you about every movie he was ever in. And,
character actor, yeah.
You all got and Murphy St. Paul, Dan St. Paul was part of that scene,
Yeah.
You're really making me. I'm really knocking the cobwebs back here. But these are all people that are still friends of mine, and I stay in touch with. Tim Bedore moved out later, and Tim was part of the thing. And,
yeah. But but back then, did you ever think about moving to L.A.? Did you ever audition at the Comedy Store?
I went down. I always played the Comedy Magic Club. Well, here's what happened. Gino Michelini, who Gino is?
I've heard of him, yeah.
Okay, Gino was a DJ at Com Radio. Then he got on a Camel. And he was there when Bennett was there, and then he moved to L.A. and got on the afternoon drive time at KLOS. Well, he started the 5 o'clock funnies, and he would have me come down. Well, shoot, because Gino was there, I could sell out anywhere. There's 2 million people were listening to the 5 o'clock funnies in their car every day, So I started working at the Comedy Magic Club and the Ice House in Pasadena. And I'd go in and out of the Improv, and Bud Friedman was they were always good about giving me a slot, because they industry people wanted to see. I did Star Search, and so Eve Bramstein saw me. She was a big casting director, and she goes, we got to do a showcase. And so she set me up, so CBS and NBC and ABC, all these people came to see me. I did great. I sat down with them. I go, okay, be honest. night court. They started laughing, going, okay, thanks for your time. And then I went back to San Francisco. I mean, there's nothing for me there. I mean, I went down and hung out at the Comedy Store, did that a couple of times.
Yeah.
I would run into Robin and Monty or Dana Carvey and people like that, and we just party. And it was more just party, get fucked up, and having Argus Hamilton, Molly Joe Prater. Those guys kind of ran the club at the time, and
yeah,
everybody was out of their fucking minds, man. Cocaine everywhere. And then later Kinnison, I mean, that was back in the later 80s. He saw me. We got to be buddies, and he goes, "You want to come out with Outlaws?" I go, "I'll die. I know right now because you don't have to go through security. You guys are taking all this blow with you on the private jet and flying around. I would just be doing line after line. I'd fucking lose a bunch of weight. I'd fucking die. I know." So I was glad that I was out touring around with bands and stuff. That kind of, the bands were always had somebody kind of in charge of things, Huey was kind of in charge of Huey Lewis and the Starship people, their managers, even though some people were crazy. A lot of them have been on the road enough to go, we're like a half a Grammy band. We'll do a half a gram, then sign the autographs after the show, and that's about how far the partying went. Because you're on a bus and day after day after day after day after day after day after day on the road, they know that'll kill you. So you just try to eat, try to sleep, do the show. Let's go to the next town. And I don't know, man. It was really kind of weird how all the band things. I started hanging out at the Jefferson Starship House down on off Fulton. There was a big mansion down there, and I got to be good friends with Nadine Condon, who worked with the band, and she would put me on shows with Jefferson Starship. I went to Alaska with them like in '82 and played up in Tahoe with them a few times, and they were the first ones that really said, this is his niche. I was kind of a perfect fit with the band for an opener. And then Bob Brown saw me, Huey Lewis's manager, at Golden Gate Park. I did a freebie opening for Pablo Cruz. That was his other band that he was handling. And so I did the show. I got off stage. He goes, "Did you get lucky, or is this what you do?" I had 10,000 people with their hands over their heads, swinging around, just doing stupid shit. It was a freebie at Golden Gate Park, so nobody's going to hate you. They're all going to love you because you're, And I said, "Well, this is what I love to do." So he ended up calling me to go out on the Huey Lewis sports tour because the Kinks got in a fight. They were supposed to tour with the Kinks, and they canceled the tour at the last minute. And Huey was ready to go. My heart and soul was big, and they needed somebody cost effective. And boom, Dr. Gonzo fit right in, cheap, one bucket, one ticket in the bus, one hotel room,
Yeah.
So I was pretty cheap.
Yeah,
I made good money, but I made for one guy, and I didn't have to split the money with a band. I didn't have to worry about equipment or load in, load out. I just showed up and did my thing and hung out with some of the coolest fucking guys in the world,
Oh yeah, Steve told me all the Kinnison stories.
Oh, the Kinnison stories, God, I can't even. My heart starts pounding thinking about it. My teeth start chattering, and I'm like, I can't.
My favorite. There was a time Mark Maron said to Steve, "Hey, you want to come up and hang out at the house?" And Steve's like, "I don't want to hear another story about how Sam invented paper and the printing press and gravity."
That's Pearl.
Yeah.
Yeah, I go to this club and I was out of toothpicks and baling wire.
Yeah.
Bill Graham, ranting and raving. Well, what am I? Pearl just cracks me up, man.
He should have been a huge star. That guy. He was the best.
Pearl does a Jack Benny as Isaac Hayes. Who's that? It's the sex machine with all the chicks. Jack, Mr. Benny, right on.
Yeah.
Look at his cadence. He can put the things together that you'd never thought of, but.
Yeah, like
he is a Mad Magazine cartoon,
Yeah, like Arnold Schwarzenegger and Merv Griffin. Remember that bit?
I could twitch you with my fingers.
I could butt fuck you with my nipple and kill you.
Fuck you with my nipple. And Merv Griffin, ooh.
Ooh, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Pearl's just a genius. But, and I think he's his own worst enemy.
Yeah.
He goes, "I'm the anti-comic. I'm like the anti-Christ, He didn't want to be famous.
Yeah.
You know what? Yeah, I don't blame him. If you can be successful without being famous, it's fucking awesome. But, you're going to hear more comedy say that Steve Pearl's the funniest person they've ever seen in their life.
Yeah.
No, and they're correct.
Yeah, absolutely. During that Comedy Store venture, did you ever hang out with Andrew Dice Clay?
No, it was before he got down there and was hanging out. This was real early '80s when I was down there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I said ran into Robin while I was down there. Thinking we're jumping from club to club, just getting locked up. And before the Belushi and before the wife put the hammer down, said no more cocaine, Robin. And then I ran into him in Des Moines right after Belushi died. I just happened to be in Des Moines because that's where I'd gone to school, and I was doing a gig, or my friends were going to have a little party for me or something, where they were old bandmates. And another friend ran into me and said, hey, I got an extra ticket to go see Robbins at the Civic Center. Well, fuck yeah, let's go. So we went, watched the show. After the show, we were back by the bus, and John Sebastian walked out. He'd opened for him. Mm-hmm. And then Robin came out, and everybody kind of surrounded Robin, and his wife Valerie saw me and said, hey, Gonzo. And Robin went, Gonzo? He just slipped over to me. He goes, just keep walking. So we walked to the hotel, which was like a block away, and just to avoid everybody. And then he goes, what are you guys doing? What are you doing? What are you guys doing? I said, I got to go over to my friend's house because they're having a little party for me. He goes, can I go? So he begged his wife, and she goes, no blow, and you got to be back by, bus leaves at 2 in the morning. And so he got in the car with me and my buddy's mouth's just hanging open. He can't fucking believe that, one, I know him, two, that he wants to hang out. And so we go to my friend's house, and my friends were so gracious and so nice to him. They could have been all fucking, fandom, but they were real nice, and I introduced him, and he got to see this collage of all these pictures of me with a band that we were out of our minds. So he got to know my background a little bit. I got to know a little bit more about him, and that was pretty cool. So you just never know where anything is going to go to anywhere. The Comedy Store was just a bunch of blow. That's all I remember. Yeah. I remember, and I was back by the back, by the Hyatt House is right there at the back door, and I was standing back there one night, and Richard Pryor, there was a big limo there, and all of a sudden Richard Pryor walks by me walking out with 2 drinks, and he's saying, I'm just looking at him like, okay, Richard Pryor. He looks at me and he goes, shh. Like, don't tell anybody I'm sneaking. I go, I'm not going to tell anybody shit, man. Richard fucking Pryor. And, you just turn around and there's another famous person. Just fucks you up, man.
Yeah, I have a friend, Lori Jacobson. She was a waitress there in 1981, 1982. She saw a lot of crazy shit there. Oh my God, she saw Mike Binder fuck a waitress on the original room stairway.
On Binder. Yeah. And Michael Keaton was another one that hung out there all the time. And yeah, it was just a fun time.
Yeah, you played a lot with Huey Lewis in the News. You were in his video for "If This Is It." What do you remember about that?
I can remember just about everything about that tour. I loved it. I went out in the fall of '83 and watched all the hits. They just shot the video for "I Want a New Drug." That was like their second release after Heart and Soul, mm-hmm. and then the Harder Rock and Roll was in there. So, and "If This Is It" we shot that in '84 around. The basketball finals were happening. It was Celtics and the Lakers. I remember that was going on at that time. It was like 3 days in Santa Cruz when we shot that video. We just had a blast. Mm-hmm. And Mario with the putting oil on his black leather jacket, cracking me up.
We talked about that.
Mario doing? You said you talked to him recently. Is he doing okay?
Yeah, Mario's doing good. I mean, he sounds like he's gone through a lot, which he has, but he's doing pretty good.
Good. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So the tour was just we started playing all these little clubs again. Like I said, they had to throw this tour together quick. They were supposed to go out on a great big tour with the Kinks, and the Davies brothers got in a fight, mm-hmm. and they were in a bind. So they called me up to tour, and so I drove out with Steve Lewis, who took care of the band. He's R.I.P. now. It was just too bad, but. We drove in a white Cadillac out to we spent a night, I think, in Montana, and then we started in Denver on this tour. We played all the fucking great rock clubs across the country and up and down the East Coast, and then we went from the rock clubs to the civic centers, to the theaters, the ornate theaters, the Palace theaters and the Fox theaters and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Then we started playing the ice rinks and the basketball arenas, and then summer came in '84. After we shot the video, all the big Nederlander owned all the big outdoor events, you know, the giant, you know, like Mountain View, the Shoreline Amphitheater kind of places.
Right.
And Bob Brown called me. We were back home, and he goes, Gonzo, they're giving me a lot of pressure. They want a band to open the show with Huey. And I go, well, I guess that's fine, but, you know, I kind of find it hard to believe that you have the hottest band in the country, and they're telling you what to do. Because I'll call you right back. you're on the gig. So I kind of talked my way back onto it. And Bob Brown was just the most gracious guy in the world for me, man. I mean, he kept me going with the band, and I really enjoyed it. And, you know, the Power of Love video, I'm at the very opening of the, you know, showing the Back to the Future and jacket and stuff like that.
Oh, you realize
and I shot a couple other videos with them, and I got cut out of them. I think I was just there for comic relief to keep everybody light on the set. But but I had a great time with the band the whole time. And Huey was a great, sort of an old soul kind of guy for, you know, just being in his 30s at the time. He knew what he wanted, and the band let him make all the decisions, which was great. He was the band leader, and between him and Bob, they knew when to say, yeah, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. You know, bands, you know, when you're hot and things are happening, you can't fuck around and wait. And that's what happened when I was out with Starship. You know, they had a couple of #1 hits at the time, and they were horrible about making decisions because they all had to vote on things, and they were more of a democracy, and sometimes the dictatorship's a little bit better. And that tour was fucking, I was group psychologist on the Starship tour. They all hated each other. And Grace was the sober one, which was bizarre.
Yeah.
And so it was you know what sucks about this band? Let me guess, everybody else? Yeah, how'd you know? Well, because I was with the drummer the night before, and the bass player the night before, and the keyboard player the night before, and they all just fucking hated each other. So, but they had #1 hits, and then, you know, we built this city, and
Sarah, and nothing's gonna stop us now. Yeah.
What's that?
And nothing's gonna stop us now. You know.
Yeah, well, that happened about 2 years later. I think that's about '87.
Yeah.
And I did 2 months on the road, and my son was only like, I missed my son from 8 months to 10 months old because I was out on tour with him. I wanted to cry every night. But it was Starship and Night Ranger. It was a double consultation. So I hung out with the Night Ranger guys quite a bit too, just to away from.
I've seen them live twice. They're a great band.
Oh man, I think Night Ranger is one of the best live bands ever. We're still rocking America. Oh yeah, I love Jack Blazers and something crazy something. I love it. So,
did you ever play with? Did you ever do a show with Montrose?
One of my earliest things, probably in '80 or '81, Camel Radio did a thing with Montrose, Ronnie Montrose, and Sammy. I think was still with the band then. And this is like at that plaza behind the Hyatt Regency down there. You know where the big goofy fountain is behind.
Yeah.
Downtown. That was a quick opener thing. I mean, I don't even know if I've got them on my opener list just because that was such an obscure show. Should be, I guess. I guess I can put them on my list. How long the bands I opened for, but yeah. And Bill Graham loved me, man. Bill Graham, he would call me up. You know, there'd be a sold-out show at the Boogie or the Warfield. He just had me on the show, and one day we were in the lobby after I'd done my set, and I go, I sell T-shirts, don't I? He goes, you finally figured it out. So the job was, you know, he told me a few $100 or whatever to open for a show, and then they take an intermission, you know, before the next act, and sell a shitload of drinks and merchandise, and I go, you know, so it's smart that I finally figured that shit out. And he knew I could pull it off, you know?
Yeah.
Walk out there and take the abuse if they were, you know, like Frank Marino from Mahogany Rush. So that fucking crowd was all on acid, I think.
Yeah.
Screaming at me, and, you know, Molly Hatchet, Blue Oyster Cult. I lived through some fucking shit shows, but they respected me afterwards. You do this for a living? Yeah, I'm done. It's your turn. Got them all wound up for you. I do sing-alongs, you know, they're all screaming at me. I go, how about I sing a phrase and you yell, fuck you? And I go, howdy, howdy, howdy. They fuck you. Howdy, howdy, fuck you. Get them to do what I wanted. You know, they get it all out of their system and everybody have a great time. So,
yeah, around 76, I think it was. My dad was at a concert on Day of the Green, and Bill Graham was like walking through the crowd screaming at everybody, right? And he comes to my dad and he's like, pick that up. And he's like, okay, Mr. Graham.
I always did anything Bill told me to.
Yeah.
One of the funnies, I volunteered to open for the Doobie Brothers for a Stanford Children's Hospital show out in Mountain View. And I always wanted to play Shoreline, so I figured this would be a chance. So I went to Bill Graham's office. I didn't talk to him, but I talked to somebody there, and they said, yeah, we'll put you on the show. So I'm standing in the wings ready to go on stage for this big Doobie Brothers show. And Bill Graham walks right in front of me, and he's looking out at the crowd, and he goes, where's the guy with the puppet? Let's get this thing started. I go, oh, Gonzo, it's you. Oh, okay. You fucking asshole. The guy with the puppet. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
You like fucking with me.
Yeah. You got to be on Star Search.
Yeah, how about that?
Yeah, what was the outcome of that?
Well, here was the deal. They kept, when Star Search first started, a lot of the guys that did the comedy portion of the show were just actors that were doing like a couple of minutes just to get some exposure,
Of course.
And then one of their producers, finally started going out to the clubs. And the year that I was on, like everybody was a full-time working club comic. So I beat Mike Finney, who was sort of a magician guy. And I won. And then the next week, Vic Henley beat me, and then he won.
Vic just died.
We beat him, and it was just like, well, we all just knocked each other off. We'd all win one and then lose the next one. And so, if they would have taken these guys and spread them out over the shows, they'd had some really great comics on the show.
Mm-hmm.
But it was fun. I mean, I was down there for about a week. And while I was down there, the MTV Music Awards was going on. And so Huey said, hey, man, you want my seat? Because I'm going to be hanging out backstage. I'm sitting in front of the Bengals. I got Crowded House next to me on the one side. I'm watching Prince on stage. It was a blast. So that was a fun week in L.A. Just doing Star Search, shaking Ed McMahon's hand and talking to Dick Martin from Rowan and Martin's Laughing, who was one of my judges. He just thought I was great. And I'm like, everybody's blowing smoke up your ass down there. I couldn't wait to get back to San Francisco, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They tell you they love you and you're great and you're wonderful, but oh yeah, come back on Tuesday.
Yeah, I've learned that a lot. I don't trust any compliment that's given to me now.
Oh man, fuck them all.
Yeah. But yeah, Vic Henley just died the other day.
Yeah, I know. That hurt me. He came here and worked our little we got a little comedy club next door here. My buddy Chris Spire from Ohio started. It would be the 15th anniversary on April Fool's Day this year, but Corona, so they're closed. But Vic came here and worked, and we got to hang out again, and just had a blast. The nicest, funniest guy, man. Great storyteller.
Oh yeah, he was great. He did a bit about George W. Bush turning gangsta. It was so damn funny.
And his Klan story too, about his black friend stealing the hood off the Klan guy. It's just, I mean, he can spin a story, man. So I was kind of sad we lost Vic. That had me in a funk here a couple days ago. So
yeah, I admire the guys. I admire the guys who can tell stories, because I'm not a story guy. I'm a one-liner monologist type of guy. I wish I could tell stories, and occasionally I do, but I just don't feel like the audience is with me when I do it.
You got to just keep it going and keep changing your voice and keep it, you got to keep dropping little gems in there as you tell them the story to keep their attention. We're painting a really great picture. I've been telling more and more stories lately just because I'm older and I can just kind of I like this. I just love that part of my show where I can just talk about getting walkie-talkies as a kid or driving to a rock concert with friends that were out of their fucking minds or with people I didn't know. Yeah, but it's still fun. I still enjoy doing it.
Yeah, you left for a while and became a teacher, right?
Yeah, I taught school for about 2.5 years, and then started. The only reason teaching thing only lasted 2.5 years. I bought a restaurant right in the middle of all that, and then I had to quit teaching because I had no idea how the restaurant business was so demanding and overwhelming. So we did that for about 13 years. But at the same time, my buddy opened a comedy club next door, so I kept going over there. I'd host a little bit, do a little bit of this, and then Emo Phillips kind of dragged me back into this whole thing.
Emo, yeah.
He saw me. Yeah, Emo's fucking,
No, I didn't expect that when I met him. I thought he was going to be out of character or something.
Oh, he's kind of that way pretty much full time.
Yeah.
And he's the normal guy in his family, and from what I understand. So, I got dinner with Emo, I don't know how many times, because the comics stay right next door, so Chris and I will hang out with the comics, or they'll come over here. And Emo was just here for about a week. This was a little over a month and a half ago. Mm-hmm. So he had dinner with us every night. We've got to be pretty close over the years. He was the one, he goes, I want you to go on and do a little bit of time. I said, okay. When I said, okay, he goes, okay, now don't do this and don't do that. Okay, wait, whoa. You want me to go on, but you don't want me to do different things. In other words, stipulations. But I did well, and he goes, man, you're a natural. You should be doing this more. So that kind of encouraged me to go, okay, I'll do some more. So there was a little bit of a break in there, but it wasn't very long, that's for sure.
Yeah, when did you...
And then the rest, and then teaching, teaching is like doing 15 shows a week, too, I was teaching English lit and creative writing and stuff, so I was keeping the kids laughing. And that was my whole thing when I went back to school. If you're going to learn, if you're laughing and learning, you retain a lot more than just being serious and bored out of your mind,
Yeah.
So I was a pretty good teacher.
Yeah, so when did you get back into stand-up?
Pretty much, I don't know, I left into 99, and then back by like 2004. There were just like 4 or 5 years in there.
Wow.
But at the same time, I had the restaurant, and so I'm doing table comedy. I'm talking to people all the time. I was the guy seating people and taking their orders sometimes, and just being funny. I never stopped playing with the people's heads. That's the funnest part.
Yeah.
Different venues, it seemed like.
Wow. So yeah, I mean, you did so many great things. I mean, you were on the Big Laugh Off on Showtime. I mean, most people don't even remember that.
They didn't have cable then.
Yeah.
There were maybe 1 million people had cable when we did that. So, but that was fun too, and that was a real experience. Working under the lights, and Fred Willard was the host, and I mean, it was Marshall Warfield did guess that. And, I'd known Marsha, and just all the people were great. John Fox was one of the funniest fucking guys on the planet.
Oh yeah,
he's dead, gone now.
Yeah.
But everybody's got a John Fox story. And,
okay.
And then Bob Newback and Barry Sobel.
Barry Sobel, yeah.
I think Sobel's still out there somewhere. I don't know.
Yeah.
But, yeah, my thing again was just living out my rock and roll fantasy. I love hanging out with like Carlos Santana and people like that were just people that are spiritually grounded. It's nice to know that in the whole realm of the craziness, there were normal people. Huey was pretty normal. Mm-hmm. Carlos was always like, he'd always come up to me before I'd go out and say, Gonzo, be nice. I said, okay. Well, your mom's here, isn't she? Just did this funny stuff. Steve Miller, probably one of the most normal guys in the planet.
Love Steve Miller, yeah.
He's a real bore. But I mean, there's America. There's bands out there that are just pretty down to earth. And then there's people, like Blue Oyster Cult are the most normal guys in the fucking world. They're short little Jewish guys from New York.
I've seen them live. Yeah.
Yeah, if their fans could see them backstage eating the sushi in their eyes out shirts and their Wayfarer glasses, it's everybody kind of puts on a thing. So.
Yeah, you even placed a couple of times in the comedy competition up in San Francisco.
Yeah, that was that was kind of fun to. In '81, and then we took that show up to Tahoe. And let's go back to the Cosby thing for a second, because when we went up there, they bought the show that they saw, at the finals, and we were kind of all over the place, but we were judged in 7 different categories, and so you kind of had to cover a lot of ground in 20 minutes or whatever your time was. Mm-hmm. And Bill Rafferty hosted the final, or the group of us up like in November of that year up in Tahoe at Caesars, I believe. And Cosby showed up and watched us. And after I did my set, I think John Fox goes, "Hey, Cosby's sitting back there, man." So I went I didn't know what to say to her, but I'd seen him at a Sugar Ray Leonard fight, and I knew he was a Sugar Ray fan, so I just kind of looked at him, he looked at me, I go, Sugar Ray, he goes, Sugar Ray. And so I sat with him, and he started talking to me. He says, why don't you boys come over and see my show tomorrow night? So he invited us all over to see his show, but we got to go in the dressing room, and he fucking critiqued us all and spent all this time, he spent time with us trying to get us from A to B in a straight line, which I thought was fucking awesome. I mean, the guy was really good. And then I passed out, and I don't remember what happened after that. No, I'm kidding. Then he drugged us all. No, he was a really good guy, and he was everything I thought he'd lived up to be. So I was kind of crushed when this whole thing happened. But if you're guilty and you're fucking sick fuck like that, sorry.
Yeah, it is really heartbreaking, and it's really disgusting.
Yeah, it's disgusting and heartbreaking. But God, he was funny.
Oh yeah, one of the funniest guys there ever was. Especially in clean comedy, because some guys can't do clean comedy that good. They can't be that entertaining. But he's one of a handful that I like that does it well.
Like Sammy Shore told me, I met Sammy Shore one time. He goes, I opened for Elvis and I couldn't say fuck. You kids today. Yeah, us kids today. Yeah, fuck you, Sammy Shore.
You ever meet Mort Saul?
Yeah, Mort hangs out at the Frock all the time, So
yeah,
I've hung with him a couple of different times backstage when Robin was still alive. He'd be back there and they'd all be riffing around, and Dana. And, it's just like old home week, when you go up to the Throckmorton. And he's funny, Julia Louise Dreyfus. She's not famous enough to have three names. Mort Saul's he's still funny. He's still fucking funny.
Yeah, my favorite quote from him is, I never met a man I didn't like until I met Will Rogers.
That's funny.
Yeah.
That's funny. That's good. But, I think it's just great that he's still hanging in there and hanging out. I mean, this whole thing sucks because at his age, you want to get as many riffs in as you can, and you can't get them in right now.
Yeah, I've tried getting him on the show, and a lot of people have tried to get him on their shows and stuff. He just doesn't want to do it, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's all right, though. He's earned that.
That's true. So what are you up to these days, and are there any plans for the future after quarantine?
Right now, we own where the restaurants used to be. We bought some old buildings downtown in my hometown, and we live upstairs like in a loft. And it's like a New York loft in the middle of a small Midwestern town. People kind of get blown away when they walk up here. But downstairs, we've kind of turned the restaurants into like an art studio, art gallery. And we've just been doing classes for kids. And I just, I paint, I paint for people. I'm like the local small town painter. If you need a room painted or a fence painted or just painted a horse for a woman, she wanted a horse painting or, whatever they want. So I do artwork, but I also do, I just do that. And then some comedy next door at my buddy's place. And I have gone out and done a few shows here and there, but I'm tired now. I don't really give a shit anymore. The comedy's fun. I can do it whenever I want to next door. Mm-hmm. And I just kind of, I don't know. I don't know what, if you gave me I was just watching the Ozark. I don't know if you ever watched that show on Netflix. It's fucking creepy, but the sister asked the brother, what are your plans for the next 5 years? Where do you see yourself? And I'm like, God, I don't know where I'm at. I want to be alive in 5 years. That's about it. I've got grandson over in Springfield now. I got grandkids that are growing, step grandkids. I got remarried, and they're all growing up now. And I'm like, family's the more important thing, and just fucking around with people in town. I'm one of those town characters, and there's plenty of them here. Their politics are a little different than mine, but I don't hold that against anybody. I try to I don't get into arguments with them, but I love overhearing them talk about things. I'm like, oh, really? Okay, whatever.
Yeah.
There's no sense in starting arguments at my age. I don't care anymore.
Yeah, I'm not a political guy at all, but certain people, especially comics, if I don't have the same point of view as them, I still get along with them and like them, and all that stuff.
I don't have time for to me that's petty shit. I can't. I don't run the world. That's why we go vote, and
What do you?
I'm not all gloom and doom about things. I'm still kind of like, it's still a great country. I'm glad I live in America. That's for sure.
Absolutely. I wouldn't live in any other place, I'll tell you. What do you think about today's comedy?
There's, I think Chappelle's like my favorite. I mean, I can't deny that. He's just fucking funny. And he is got his own way of saying things, and I really like the way he says them. I try to watch some stuff every once in a while. I don't know. If a friend of mine says you got to see this, I'll sit and watch. But I hardly watch comedy at all. I've got all the Netflix stuff, and Dennis Reagan.
Dennis Reagan, yeah.
Out there that are just fucking goofier and shit.
Brian Regan's really good too.
Brian, not Dennis. Well, Dennis, yeah, Dennis is funny too, but I meant Brian.
Yeah.
Brian's the one who goes, Mark Sweeney's a friend of mine, from St. Louis. He's another goofy guy, and Buzz Sutherland. I mean, I prefer watching clips of friends of mine just to see where they're at, or if they're doing something funny or a little bit different. That tickles me more than anything else. And like I said, I hardly watch Comedy Central. I don't.
It's not the same no more.
I don't watch The Daily Show anymore. I used to watch it when Jon Stewart was on it because I thought he was pretty funny. But I don't really watch anything that, I don't know. Still like Larry Storch from F-Troop,
Yeah. He's one of the greats. He's still alive, too.
I know. He's got to be 95 or something.
Yeah.
But it's, I don't know. Funny's funny to me. But the dumber and the sillier it is, like I thought Senior Wences was fucking hysterical when I was a kid, and I still do. I can watch these clips of, all right, son, how do you today? That's so good. He's talking to himself. He's a ventriloquist. He's just out of his mind. He couldn't speak English worth his shit, but he was funny. Silly's my favorite.
Yeah, I mean, we got the politically correct woke culture going on today, and when I started doing stand-up in '06, it was right at the beginning of it. The only difference was back then it was only MySpace. There was no Facebook or Twitter or anything. So like when I would perform and I'd be politically incorrect, everyone would just like not laugh, not say anything, And that now, everyone's on Facebook and Twitter, posting the clip of what they saw and, bad-mouthing the person who's doing the comedy.
Well, like Ellen DeGeneres, I guess, the other day said something about being on quarantine is like being in jail. And what a fucking blown-up thing that became. Oh, yeah, you're in jail in a $14 million home. And that's not what she meant.
Yeah.
It's not, and she probably doesn't know what it's like to be in jail, but she's been through, she didn't have the easiest life growing up and things, It's not like... to lose perspective and just the whole PC thing. I mean, the PC thing was even around when I was doing comedy back in, like at Cobb's in the mid-'90s.
Yeah.
I said something, and I had a whole bunch of lesbian lawyers in the crowd. Of course, where else are you going to have a whole group of lesbian lawyers in the crowd? But they took offense to something I said. I said, well, I'm sorry, let's just go on with it. And I made a mistake. If you find that offensive, I'm sorry. Let's move on. And then I went on with my show, and then afterwards, I'm sorry, he goes, what happened to you, man? Years ago, you just tore him in a new asshole. I go, yeah, but I don't want to walk past your crowd. Don't you want them to pay for their drinks instead of just walk out on you? But, weird stuff like that. I mean, I used to slam with hecklers all the time, I mean, that's part of the rock and roll. They love it when people love insults for some reason. But I've mellowed. I don't care. I don't need to insult people anymore.
Yeah.
Unless they really need to be insulted. Like I had a woman fuck with me big time on a place I rented, and she was bad-mouthing all over Facebook and shit. And I just said, there's two sides to every story, and you're a cunt in both of them.
That's a good one.
So there you go, pal. Get over it. Move on. I don't care. So.
Oh, man. It's a different time, different vibe. But
yeah, everything. Life's too short right now for me to worry about people's feelings. I just want to hang out with my grandkid and teach him all the weird shit I can, and hopefully he's got some kind of a future. So
that's great. God bless you, man.
Hey, thanks, buddy. I appreciate it. Oh, it was nice talking to you, man. And what's the biz been like for you? I mean, you said it's kind of cutthroat, and everybody's in it for themselves, and there's no camaraderie and stuff. And we might make it sound like it was just all fun and games and whatever, but there were people that were upset with different guys because somebody got a break and somebody else didn't get a break. You know, I mean, it gets to that eventually when it becomes competitive. And the whole San Francisco comedy competition thing, you know, I mean, if you're going to go into show business, do comedy competitions because that's good training for how you're going to get fucked over in the long run, you know. But it's, you know, we didn't care who came in first, second, or third. We liked who we thought was funny. We thought, you know, and it was really hard when you passed up friends because you understood the passion for wanting to be a comic. And when you're out there doing it, you're getting good breaks, things are working, going your way, but they're not going their way for your friends because they have the passion, but they don't have the timing, or they don't have the whatever it is to be a good comic. You feel for them because you wanted them to come along on the ride with you because you like them and they're your buddies. And
satellite comics, they call them.
That's what I'm talking about. It's you want everybody to do well. You want everybody to be successful. I do anyway. All my friends, and there's still bitterness between some people and others. And who cares? I don't care.
I root for other comics. You know, I'm not competitive at all. And I've been taking a break the last 2 years since I lived up here. Since I moved up here to Redding, it got really expensive in the Bay Area. A lot of shit happened to me. I had a car accident and everything. I mean, just things got fucked up there and stuff. But, I plan on making a return once I get out of here. I'm going to try to get down to L.A. in the next year or so. And
good luck, man. That's all I can tell you is
thanks.
Good luck. Just remember, it's a freaking business to a lot of these people, and they don't care if they step on you to get there. You know, Rob Schneider, and I love Rob. Yeah. Rob had to kind of, do it his way, and he burned some bridges along the way, but you know what? He was looking out for himself and what he wanted to do, and he did it.
He gave me some great advice once. He said, have a solid 5 minutes that works everywhere you go, and that was passed on to him by Jay Leno the first time he opened for him at Cobb's. And he's right. And the last thing Rob told me is, man, you still got a third act. Do what you got to do. And I said, you're right. I'll do whatever I got to do. But I think the most important thing is, and I learned this lesson too because I did a showcase at the Laugh Factory. Yeah.
And I'd just written like 2 new jokes, and I opened with them. I said he went nowhere, and so much for my audition. When you don't always do what you know when you're auditioning for somebody. Do your best stuff. Don't. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Great advice. That is good advice.
Yes.
And here's what I told Rob Schneider: don't call women cunts on stage. Last time I saw him, he goes, "That's the best advice you ever gave me." He would say, "You're a cunt. Shut up. Don't do that." Oh, Jesus. You're gonna alienate half the crowd. So, and the guys are gonna snicker, but they can't say anything because their wife would kill them.
Of course.
Anyway.
Well, John.
It is what it is. Well, thanks, man. I appreciate it. Is this something broadcast? Are we on a podcast or?
It's podcast. Yeah, it's my version of a podcast, as I call it. I'm going to upload it to YouTube as soon as we're done here, and I'm going to share it on Facebook and Twitter and what have you.
Okay, cool, man. You got a picture of me somewhere?
Yeah, I actually found a really good one of you and Sam.
Oh, that was a good one. Yeah. We were at the. That was a cool day. That was it was Christmas. K-Fog was doing it live from the Hard Rock Cafe, and they had different musicians singing and playing, and Sam and I and Todd Rundgren sang background. Greg Ken was doing Blue Christmas. Blue, and Todd and me and Kenneth were going, ooh. And I kept looking back and forth, left and right, going, I can't believe I'm doing this. This is awesome. Ooh. So, but fun times. And Kennison. Rest in peace for him too, buddy.
Yep, I've interviewed his brother Bill, and
good.
He's got a lot of great stories.
He grew up, Sam grew up in Peoria, which is just like 40 miles north of where I grew up here in Mason City, and
right.
And I think I saw him preach when I was a kid because we went to see this evangelist
Well, John, you have yourself a great day. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you, Mr. Kovac. Appreciate it. You have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye. Well, there you have it. John Means, a.k.a. Dr. Gonzo. Ain't he a cool dude? Man, I wish we were part of that same generation of comedy because I would have hung out with that guy. Oh, man. Fucking, there's so many assholes I came up with in comedy. And I didn't have a comedy friend like that guy. So that is just so profound for me. I'm so glad he came on and we got to talk about stuff. If you like this video, everyone, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Add me as a friend on Facebook. Join my Tommy Kovac comedian page on Facebook. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram and all that fun stuff. Well, that's all the time we have this week on Splat from the Past. Until next time, this is Tommy Throwback Kovac saying, there's no shame in living in the past, because the present sucks. Later, dudes.